Okay, guys, I'll be talking about analysis, interpretation, and the use of test data. So take note that as educators, one of the things that we do is we record the scores. Okay, but other than recording the scores, we must take note that we can analyze these scores, we can interpret these scores, and then we can use the data from these scores. And that's why we are having this topic or lesson for us to be able to compare, for us to be able to understand what is the current performance that our students are showing. Now, for us to analyze the data, there are two particular measures in statistics that we are talking about. So you have your measures of central tendency, and then the other one is measures of variability. Okay? So kindly take note, you have your measures of central tendency. The another type is measures of variability. Let's first talk about your measures of central tendency. Pag sinabi nating measures of central tendency, as it says, class, central. Okay, it says central tendency. In other words, class, it's the central location or the point of convergence. For example, if this line, class, represents the data or all the scores of your students, the measures of central tendency will be somewhere here in the middle. Because after all, they are referred to as the central location or point of convergence. Okay? Kung kaya na tinawag siya central tendency. Now, if you would look at the list, there are three common measures of central tendency. One is your mean. Your mean is commonly symbolized by an X with a bar. Then plus your median is commonly symbolized by X with a wavy bar. Okay, we refer to that as your X tilde. Then your mode plus is symbolized by X and an O. Okay, so this is your mean, your median, and your mode. These are the three most common measures of your central tendency. Now, if you have, for example, the following scores listed, no? So class, nakikita nyo sa screen yung mga scores ng mga students natin. So we have 20 students here in a 15-item quiz exam. So the number 12, 13, 11, 9, 8, 10, 12, those are indications of raw scores. Okay? Yung nakikita nating numbers dito or yung scores plus ng mga estudyante natin is tinatawag nating raw scores. If I would want to get the mean of these scores, I would simply add all of these scores and then divide it by the total number of students that I have. So that will be 12 plus 13 plus 11 plus 9 plus 8 hanggang plus 12 divided by 20 because that's the total number of the students that I have. Now, since we are already in the era of information technology, we are already in the era of the Internet of Things, okay, and all those advancements, I don't expect you to be computing that one manually. Okay, I am not expecting you to compute those manually. Now, if you would look at this, my dear students, future educators, you will be able to see the listing of the scores there that I have provided. So, plus, if I would want to determine the average, here's one thing that you can do. To determine the sum, class, you just type is equal to sum, and then you highlight. Okay? Highlight. Then you will know that the total is 224. If you would want to get the mean, so as I have mentioned earlier, it's equal to the sum divided by the total number of students that you have, that is 20. Okay, divided by 20. And from that, I am able to conclude that the mean score of my students is 11.12. Now, since you are supposed to learn already your computer skills even way back high school, your junior high and senior high school years, you should be able to remember that there is a quick formula for average here. Okay? So if you would want to determine the mean, pwede na rin na hindi tayo dediretso. Okay? We will not be doing na the total. Instead, you just write is equal to average, open parenthesis, and then highlight all the items where you need the average. And then as you can see, the result is 11.2. Okay? Now, as your teacher in assessment, I will not be asking you to demonstrate Microsoft Excel during your examinations, but I expect you to use these technologies later on once you are already educators. Okay? Class, I know may mga nasasanay pa ring teacher na gumagamit ng computer, but the accuracy of the computation when you are doing it in platforms such as your Microsoft Excel is higher compared than doing it using your calculators manually. Okay? So take note that you are already encouraged to use platforms like this when you are computing for the grades of your students. Okay? So tandaan nyo yan. Yan ang isang platform na pwede nating gamitin, your Microsoft Excel. So that's how you compute the mean. Again, to compute for the mean using Microsoft Excel, the function that we are using is, we are using the function average. Okay, the function that we are using in Microsoft Excel in order to determine the average is, or the mean is average. Sir, bakit average? Plus, kung naaalala nyo yung lessons natin sa statistics, mean and average are actually the same thing. Okay, mean and average are actually the same thing. Now, let's talk about the median. Plus, pag sinabi kong median, this is the value that divides the rank score into halves or the middle value or the rank scores. So pag sinabi nating median class, ibig sabihin, siya yung nasa gitna. Okay? Again, pag sinabi kong median, siya yung nasa gitna. But take note of the word there that it says rank score. Sabi po niya, rank score. In other words, class, will I treat the data as is or dapat ko nga ba siyang ilagay in order? Okay, will I treat the data as is here or do I need to place the data in order? Can I see responses? Sige na, sabi niya rank score. So when I say rank score, do I treat the data as is, as shown on the screen, or do I still need to place the data in order? Anybody? May nakikita na ako sa chat. How about yung iba? Okay, so you need to place the data in order. Okay? That's one of the most common loophole that we can see, no? That we can see when we are computing for the means. Yung iba nakakalimutan na yung data pala is dapat pa nating ilagay in order, no? So we need to place the data in order. Now, if you would look at the data there, class, no? Sige, gawin natin in order. So for this one, you have, let me pick a pen. Okay, so 5 is still here. So you have 5. Then may dalawa tayong 6, 6, 6. Then we have dalawang 7, 7, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, 8 and 9. Now, if you would look at this ordered array, plus the term for that is ordered array, or simply array, pag titingnan ko pong array na yan, ano po yung middle value natin? If I would look at the array, what is considered to be your middle value? Yes, I would want to see it on chat. Ano po yung makukonsider nating middle value in this case? Sige na, okay? People are saying 7, 7, 7. Tingnan natin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the middle value is indeed 7. Okay, sa gitna po yung 7, kaya po siya yung tinatawag nating median. Now, let's look at the example below. No? Madali lang po ito kasi odd numbers po yung number ng data natin dyan. In other words, class, may 7, no? Hindi po siya 8. But let's look at the example below wherein there are 8 datas presented, or data, presented. Okay, class, please don't say datas, ha? It's data. The singular is datum. No? So, datum, Now, titingnan natin to in order. 5. So, ilang 6? Dalawang 6. Pagkatapos, you have your 7. Dalawang 7. Pagkatapos, 8. At saka dalawang 9 ang nakikita ko. Now, plus in this case, what would we do? Since wala po tayong middle value, yung middle value po natin is nandito. Kasi naman 4, 4 na data yung sa left, 4 na data din yung sa right natin. So class, in that case, what you're going to do is you get the average value. You get the average value of these two. Okay? We are fortunate kasi pareho naman silang 7. So you know naman that 7 plus 7 divided by 2, that will be equal to 14 divided by 2. So the answer is still 7. Okay? But then, the main reminder here is that once there is an even number of data presented to you, you get the average of these data. Okay? You get the average of the two middle value for you to be able to determine the median of the data set. Okay? Are you getting my point? Can I get a heart react for those who understood what I'm talking about? Can I see a heart reaction for those who are understanding this? Okay, how about others? Kung ayaw ng heart, pwede po tayong mag-like. Okay, good. Now, let's talk about your mode. Okay, pag sinabi naman nating mode, it's the easiest measure of central tendency. Okay, it means that the score or the value with the highest frequency in the set of scores. Ano pong ibig sabihin natin yung frequency? Class, the frequency is simply the number of occurrences. Okay, class, your frequency actually just stands for number of occurrences. Now, pag titingnan po natin itong datang to, so you have 5, okay? 5, isa lang siya. 6, dalawa sila. Pagkatapos 7, dalawa din sila. Si 8 at saka si 9, tig-isa-isa. Now, if I would look at that class, what could be considered the mode? Sabi dito, it's the score or value with the highest frequency. Or in other statistics books, they would say it's the most frequently occurring value or data. It's the most frequently occurring value. Now, look at this data set. What would be my mode? Ano po yung pinakamarami sa kanila? Yes, may nagsasabing 6, tama yung 6. May nagsasabi ding 7. Okay? Paano yan, sir? 2 6, 2 7. Ano po yung magiging mode natin? Pwede bang dalawa ang mode? If you can recall your lessons in statistics, can I have 2 modes? Can I have 2 modes if I'm talking about modes in statistics? Yes, I would want to see the responses. Doon sa tanong ko, pwede bang dalawa yung mode? Kasi nga, dalawa yung 6, dalawa yung 7. Okay, may nagsasabing no daw, sir, hindi pwede. How about yung iba? May nagsasabing no. Yes, may nagsasabing yes, yes. Okay. So class, remember that when we're talking about mode, you can have actually multiple modes. Okay? May tinatawag po tayong data set na unimodal. Ibig sabihin, isa lang yung mode. Meron po tayong bimodal. Ibig sabihin, dalawa. And meron po tayong polymodal, poly as in your polygon also, which means many modes. So in this case, class, our data set is considered to be bimodal. Bakit po siya naging bimodal? Dalawa po kasi yung 6, dalawa din po kasi yung 7. So yung mode po natin is 6 and 7. In other words, it's the most frequently occurring scores among your students in a 10-item exam. So pwede nating sabihin na, uy, marami yung naka-6, marami din yung naka-7 sa exam natin last time. Okay? That's one example. Now, class, if you will be asking yourselves, no, sir, ako'y magtuturo, ako'y magiging teacher, ano pong gagawin ko sa mean, median, and mode kapag science naman po yung tinuturo ko? Hindi naman po ako math major, PE naman po yung ituturo ko. Hindi naman po ako statistics kung ano dyan. Bakit po natin to? Why are we learning this? Now, class, for example, if you have section A and section B, okay? Let's say you have section A and section B in a 30-item exam, and you found out that section A, average score class is 27. Yung mean ng section A, 27. Yung mean class ng section B is only 19. Take note ha, we are talking here about a 30-item exam. Now class, what do you think of the result of section B? Okay lang ba na ito yung result ng section B, or do I need to do remedial classes to section B based on this data? Sige, ito yung data mo, 2 section yung handle mo, section A and section B. Si section A yung average score 27. Si section B yung mean score is 19. What do you think will be a valid conclusion from my end as an educator? Okay lang sila? A, okay lang ba sila? Or B, do I need to conduct remedial classes? What do you think? Sige na, your responses on chat. Ano pong gagawin natin pag ganito yung scores? Okay lang ba na ganyan? Hayaan na natin ganyan? Or kailangan nating mag-remedial classes sa mga students natin, particularly sa section B? Sige, gusto kong makita yung sagot ng iba. Gusto kong makita yung sagot ng iba. Yes, thank you, Jonah. Okay? Okay, sige. I think you're getting the point, no? So, remedial classes tayo, especially sa Section B. Okay? Now, let's say for example, nag-exam tayo. Another example nag-exam tayo. Ay, bakit ayaw sumulat ng ballpen? Okay? Wait lang. Ayaw sumulat ng pen ni sir. Baka pwedeng itapon. Okay, ayan na. Nag-box na siya. So class, let's say for example, you have a 100-item exam. Okay? Then class, here comes, let's say, si student Alexa. Ang score ni Alexa class sa exam is 47. Okay? 47 out of 100. O kung kayo, 47 out of 100. Will you be happy with that score or will you be sad? Tingnan nyo lang yung score na 47 out of 100. Nakakatuwang score ba yan or malungkot? Sige na, in general. Responses please. Pag sinabi kong 47 out of 100, sad daw, sad. Okay, sad score. Okay, mababa, di ba? Mababa. But come to think of this, once you have the data, you found out that the average score of your students is 49. The average score of your students is 49 out of 100. Now, can I still say that this score 47 is very low? Or baka yung exam ko yung may problema? What do you think could be a valid, do you think could be a valid conclusion? A, is this score very low? Or B, my exam is very difficult? Is it indicating that Alexa's score is very low? Or is it indicating that my score or my exam is very difficult? Okay, so class, tama yung punto ni Jella, tama yung punto ni Joy, okay, ni Jay. It could be that my exam is already very difficult. Okay? Now, what's the purpose of this, no? During counseling, when we are doing counseling to our students, oftentimes, there are students who would approach you, Sir, yung score ko po sa exam 47, nakaka-depress kasi 47 out of 100. Nag-aral naman ako. But class, once the average score is 49, you can actually appraise your student and present the reality to your students that her score is a little bit below average, but it's not far from average. Okay? Ibig sabihin, class, yung kanyang performance is hindi naman malayo sa average performance ng klase nila. Okay? Now, ikaw naman bilang teacher, that makes you think that the exam is difficult. Now, since your exam is difficult, you need to counter-check. No? Babalik kayo sa lessons natin about discrimination index. Babalik kayo sa lessons natin about the difficulty level of your examinations. Pagkatapos, i-counter-check mo. Kapag mahirap talaga yung exam mo, baka kailangan mong magbigay ng remediation examinations, or baka kailangan mong mag-reinforce ng topics, or baka kailangan mong ipa-review yung examinations mo, baka kahit ikaw hindi makakasagot ng exams mo. Okay? I've already encountered many teachers, and even I myself included, that some of the items in my exam are not understandable. No? Nung pagbasa mo ng exam mo the second time, sasabihin mo sa sarili mo, ano bang tinatanong ko dito? Bakit ganito ba yung question? So if you would want to improve that, you need to have the counter-checking of your examinations. Okay? Or else class problems like this would arise. Eh sir, paano naman yung median? Class, halimbawa, you have a 50-item exam. And then, for example, you found out that the median score is 41. Okay? Now class, from that, you can conclude that 50% of your students scored above 41. And then, another 50% of your students scored below 41. Ibig sabihin, maganda yung performance. No? Ibig sabihin, maganda yung performance ng kalahati ng klase kasi nga 41 yung median score. Okay? Now class, if we are talking about students, if we are talking about data with extreme values, okay, data with extreme values, you need to consider using the median as a more reliable tool. Okay? The median could be considered as a more reliable tool. ano pong ibig sabihin natin ng extreme values. For example, in a class, sa class, halimbawa 50 item exam, pagkatapos yung mga scores are, may mga score na 30, 32, 33, 31, 29, tapos may genius. May student ka na 49 yung score. Pagkatapos may isa kang student na yung score 10, tapos yung iba 29, 28, 30, 31. So as you can see, these two students na yung score class is 10 and 49 are considered to be extreme values already. Now, dahil extreme values po sila, they affect the mean. Okay? That's one thing that you need to remember. The extreme values affect the mean. Okay? So, halimbawa, kapag isasama ko yan plus sa computation ng mean, kasi nga, masasama talaga sila, no? The score could be very high or very low. And ayun pala, yung problema is one student or yung nag-i-excel is one student only. And for that reason, the interpretation of the mean may be erroneous. And for that reason also, in statistics, for extreme values, the central tendency, the measure of central tendency that is recommended is the use of your median. Okay, kindly take note of that, median kapag extreme values po tayo. Yung mode po, hindi po natin kadalasan ginagamit for analysis, maliban na lang if we would want to know the highest number of scores, no? The highest number of scores that are present in our class. Okay? Now, one way also for us to understand kung ano po yung data natin na tinutukoy is that for us to understand the scales of measurement na tinatawag natin. Now, class, when we talk about the scales of measurement, there are actually 4 scales of measurement. Okay? Now, class, the 4 scales of measurement are your nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. This belongs to your statistics class, but just for the purpose of assessment, analysis in assessment, let's look at nominal. Class, pag sinabi nating nominal, they are merely categories. Hindi ko po siya ma-add, hindi ko siya ma-minus, hindi ko siya ma-times, divide, and I could not say which one is better in the nominal. Example, a very good example of this is sex. Di ba class, pag sinabi nating sex, you have male, and then you have female. Okay? So I could not say, if who is better? Is it the male or the female? Another example of that class will be your religion. Sa religion, hindi ko naman pwedeng sabihin that, Roman Catholic is better than Protestantism, it's better than Baptist, or it's better. Hindi po natin pwedeng sabihin ganon. For that example, it is considered to be nominal. Pag sinabi naman nating ordinal class, as in ordinal, may order po siya. Ibig sabihin, class, we know the rank. Ibig sabihin, we know the rank. First honor, second honor, third honor, eldest child, middle child, youngest child. Those are all considered to be ordinal data. Okay? Those are all considered to be ordinal data. Now, pag sinabi naman natin class interval at saka ratio, class pag sinabi nating interval and ratio, we are usually dealing already with numbers. We are already dealing with the scores of your students. Okay, class, we are dealing with numbers and we are dealing with the scores of your students. Okay? Now, pag sinabi nating numbers class or scores ng mga students natin, ano po yun, ano? Example ng interval, no? Example ng interval, yung score niyo po sa exam. Limbawa, in a 10-item quiz, ang score ninyo pwedeng 3, pwedeng 7, pwedeng 10. That's an example of an interval data. Okay? Height and weight, no? Your height and weight, yeah, they could be interval data. Temperature is also considered to be interval data. Yung temperature po natin, halimbawa, 36.5 degrees Celsius, that is interval data. Pero, pag sinabi natin class na ratio scale, once I say class ratio scale, look at the word ratio for you to remember this. Okay, I'm highlighting the last letter there, letter O. Okay, class, for it to look like as a 0, ano pong ibig sabihin natin sa ratio scale? In the ratio scale class, you have what you refer to as your absolute 0. Okay, class, in the ratio scale, you have what you refer to as an absolute 0. Ano pong ibig sabihin natin ng absolute zero? When I say class absolute zero, zero does not exist. Okay, class, zero does not exist. Okay? A very good example for this one could be your temperature in terms of Kelvin. Okay, class, a very good example of the data in the ratio scale is your temperature in terms of Kelvin. Pag sinabi ko, class, na 0 Kelvin, you will be unable to feel anything. That's the lowest recorded temperature on Earth. Okay, class, that's the lowest recorded temperature on Earth, your 0 Kelvin. That's why it's considered to be the ratio scale. Now, let's take, for example, if I will say 0 degrees Celsius. Class, sa 0 degrees Celsius, will you be able to feel something? Sige nga, I want to see your responses or hear your response. In 0 degrees Celsius, can I feel something? Diba, 0 degrees Celsius, sabi nila, freezing point of water. Kung kaya yung ice natin, ginagawa yan, class, in 0 degrees Celsius, negative 2 degrees Celsius, or the like. So, if I will say, class, that there is 0 degrees Celsius, can I still feel something? Sige nga, I would want to see your responses. Can I see something or can I feel something if it's in 0 degrees Celsius? Anybody? Yes or no? Sige na, 0 degrees Celsius. Can I feel something? Ano po yung mafe-feel ko kapag sinabi na, uy, yung temperature ngayon sa US is 0 degrees Celsius? What will you feel kapag 0 degrees Celsius siya? Okay? Yes, Kian is telling us na yes, may mafe-feel ka daw. How about yung iba? Yung iba nag-no talaga. Are you sure you will not be feeling anything at 0 degrees Celsius? Try to think. Okay, yes, sobrang malamig, no? How about iba? Okay, how about yung iba? Sige na, for me to make my point here. Yes, it's cold. That's correct, Joanna. So class, when you talk about 0 degrees Celsius, you actually do feel cold in 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, you feel cold and you feel actually very cold. And for that reason, class, your temperature in Celsius is actually in the interval scale. Okay, class, your temperature in Celsius is actually in interval scale. Pero kanina sabi ko yung 0 Kelvin, class is considered to be ratio scale kasi you will not be able to feel something. Okay? So I hope that you will be able to realize that. Now class, ano pong kinalaman nito sa mean, median, at saka sa mode? Okay? Why do I need to remind you about the specific scales of measurement when we were just talking about the mean, median, and the mode? Class, when we are talking about the nominal data and the ordinal data, the best measure that you can have is the mode. When I am talking about the interval and the ratio data, you can already determine here the mean. Okay, sorry class for the nominal ordinal, you can also add median. Okay, class, for interval ratio, you can determine the mean, the median, and the mode. Okay, so class, interval ratio, pwede po nating ma-determine yung mean, median, at saka yung mode. Okay? So kindly take note of that. Now, if you would look at class the different scales of measurement, bigay muna tayo ng example sa, let's say, the different colors. Let's talk about the different colors, class. If I will be talking about the different colors, red, orange, yellow, green, violet, blue, what scale is that? Is that nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio? Red, orange, yellow, green, violet, blue. What scale of data is that? Is that nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio? Okay, very good. No? It's considered to be nominal. Now, let's say, for example, I studied the income of the students in the College of Education. I classified them into low income, average income, and then high income. Low income, average income, at saka high income. What will be the scale of measurement? Okay? Very good. That would be your ordinal data. Now, let's say, for example, that the altitude of the mountain is, let's say, 25. Let's say, for example, 2,500 feet. Sabihin natin, the altitude of the mountain is 2,500 feet. Is it interval or ratio? Okay? It's considered to be interval. Okay? Tama po yung interval. Kasi class, pag sinabi nating altitude, your altitude is usually in comparison with the sea level. So class, may mga mountains tayong matataas. Pagkatapos class, may mga platforms din naman tayo na nasa ilalim ng dagat. Okay? So the positive and the negative value would actually matter. Okay? Now, let's say for example, scores. Let's say for example, scores in exam. Scores in exam. Will it be interval or ratio? Score nyo halimbawa sa prelim natin. Okay? Or score ninyo class sa midterms natin. Will it be considered to be interval scale or ratio scale? Napa-ratio siya. Medyo na-confuse, ano? Okay? Ako nga dati, confused din yan, ano? Okay, very good. So class, it's considered to be interval. Bakit interval? Class, pag 0 po yung score ninyo sa quiz natin, okay? If your score in our quiz is 0, it still means that you have taken the quiz. Okay? Nakuha mo yung quiz, siguro hindi mo lang talaga naintindihan yung topics, no? Wala ka lang talagang learning from the topics. That's why you got 0. Okay? But still, that is a score that reflects your level of knowledge about the topic being tested during that specific type of exam. Okay? That's why class, that's why it's still considered to be interval. Okay? So class, those are the different measures in terms of your central tendency. No? And if you would look at this one, now class, this one shows us the skewness of the data. Okay, this image reflects the skewness of the data. So class, may tinatawag tayong negatively skewed and then may tinatawag tayo class na positively skewed. Pag sinabi natin class na skewness, no, pag titingnan po natin yung skewness, ito po yung part class na parang pababa. Okay? This is the part that is leaning like this. That's why this one is referred to as negatively skewed. Okay? Tapos ito class is positively skewed or skewed to the right. This one naman class is negatively skewed or skewed to the left. Okay? Skewed to the left, skewed to the right for that matter. Now class, if you would look at this one, no, ano pong pinapakita nito? Ito po yung tinatawag nating normal distribution. This is how we expect things to be. Okay? Yan usually sinasabi ng mga statistician. That's how we perceive the world to be, no? That everything will be normally distributed. Halimbawa, kung sa atin class, no, may mga scores tayo sa exam na average, that's karamihan, pero meron talagang mga students na pataas yung scores, meron ding students na pababa yung scores. Just think of this class, for example, if this is 0, this one is -1, -2, -3. On this side, you have +1, +2, and +3. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, class, kakonting estudyante lang, kay konting estudyante lang class yung matatalino pero matataas yung score, and may mga students din tayo class na mababa yung scores pero kakonti lang. Okay, that's the normal distribution. But okay, if you're talking in the classroom setting, it could be possible that your students are negatively skewed and your students are positively skewed. Pag sinabi natin class that your students are negatively skewed, ibig sabihin may mga extreme low scores ka. You have what we refer to as extreme low scores. Kung baga, karamihan sa kanila class, no, isipin natin 10-item exam, karamihan sa kanila may score na 8, 9, and 10, pero may student ka talaga na yung score 2 at saka 3. Okay? Pag positively skewed naman class, karamihan ng mga estudyante mo, yung score nasa 4, 5, 6, pero may student ka talaga na yung score 10. May student ka na yung score 9. Ibig sabihin, parang genius siya ng klase. So class, kapag negatively skewed, may extreme low scores. Ito naman class, may extreme high scores. Okay, there's presence of extreme high scores in the positively skewed data. Sir, paano po nalalaman yung skewness ng data? Plus, the skewness of the data could actually be computed. No? There's a manual computation for that. And then right now, we also have softwares that could help you determine the skewness of the data, whether it's inclined to the left or inclined to the right. Kung kayo naman yung teacher class, dapat makikita ninyo na ay okay, may mga students akong extremely low. I have students who are extremely high. And these are students also that you need to focus on. Bakit? Yung mga extremely low class, baka yung sila yung mga learners mo na leave behind. Okay? They are behind in their performance. You need to address them. If you will be talking about naman yung mga learners mo na extremely high, sila yung mga learners mo class na madaling maboard. Kung baga, you are talking about simple lessons and for them, napakadali naman yan. Okay? Parang wala na akong learning, nakakawalang gana mag-eskwela kapag ganito. Okay? So dapat we'll be able to engage them, address them, and counsel them also. Now, so why do we look into the mean, median, and mode? I was able to tackle that earlier when I told you about the significance of the mean, median, and mode. Okay? So wag yung sabihin na ay teacher ako. Wala akong pakialam sa mean, median, and mode. Okay? So class, you can actually use the mean, median, and mode to determine the performance of your class, to determine whether your student is above average or below average. Okay? And for you to set realistic goals for your learners. Now, let's talk about the measures of dispersion. Or earlier, I've told you about the measures of variability. Okay, class, the same lang yan ha. Yung measures of depression at saka yung measures of variability are actually two the same things, no? So you have class the term measures of variability. Okay, excuse me in a little while. So class, when I talk about the measures of dispersion and measures of variability, there are actually a lot of them. But I will just be focusing our lesson in range, variance, and standard deviation. So you have your range, variance, and standard deviation. So class, when I talk about the range, pag sinabi po nating range class, your range is computed by having the highest value. Okay class, your range is computed by having the highest value minus the lowest. Okay, range class, highest minus lowest. In other words, halimbawa sa klase natin, 10-item exam, the highest score is 10, the lowest score is 3, it would mean that the range is 7. Okay? That's the range. Now, class, pag sinabi nating variance at saka standard deviation, for your variance class, your variance is computed by the summation of, summation of x squared. Okay, I will review. So class, your variance is computed by the summation of x squared divided by n or n minus 1. Okay, wait lang ha, i-review ko yung formula, baka na-miss out ko. Okay, so class, variance. The formula of the variance is usually s squared. Okay, ang symbol po pala ng variance is x squared. And the formula is summation of x minus mean squared over n or n minus 1. N minus 1 po kapag sample, big N lang po kapag population. Okay, big N lang po kapag population. Okay, so class, now, pag titingnan po natin to, if that is the formula of your variance, your standard deviation is actually square root of summation of x minus mean squared over n minus 1. So in other words, class, your standard deviation is simply the square root of your variance. Okay, class, your standard deviation is simply the square root of your variance. Again ha, standard deviation is the square root of your variance. Now, sir, ipapakompute mo ba kami yan? Hindi po yan part ng competency that you will be learning in this class. But what's important is for you to be able to interpret the data. Okay? Now, class, I captured this SPSS table from the internet. Now, let's just think of this as section 1, section 2, and section 3. Okay? Isipin natin ganon. Ha? Pagkatapos, class, isipin natin that the data here is set of scores for a 15-item exam. Okay? Let's think of this as a set of scores for a 15-item exam. Okay? Now, class, tingnan po natin yung mean. Makikita po natin na yung mean score class ng section 1 is mababa compared sa section 2 at saka sa section 3. Okay? So you can see the value 7.45 at saka 8.88. Ibig sabihin sa tatlong sections, okay, sa tatlong sections po natin, you have the performance of section 3 as the highest. Okay? Pinakamataas po yung performance ng section 3 natin. Now, if I would look at the standard deviation, no, mean, yung mean kasi class magko-compare if who performs better. If I would look at the standard deviation class, you will see the value 1.4, 1.5, and then 3.1. Diba class? 1.48, 1.52, at saka 3.21. 3.11, I mean. Now, again, when I talk about standard deviation, pag sinabi kong standard deviation, it's considered to be a measure of dispersion. It's also considered to be a measure of variability. Measure po siya ng dispersion or variability. Pag magkaganon class, it's measuring how spread the data is. It's measuring how spread the data is. Okay? Now, ano pong ibig sabihin dyan? If I would look at these three standard deviations, I will be able to say that the scores of section 3 is also more spread. Okay? Ano pong ibig kong sabihin ng more spread? In statistics, we use the term heterogeneous. Ibig sabihin, class, magkaiba-iba yung scores nila. Malawak yung dispersion ng scores nila. If we would illustrate it, class, we can illustrate it as ang section 1, kung igagraph mo yung scores nila, parang ganito. Yung section 2, kapag igagraph mo yung scores nila, parang ganyan. Pero ang section 3, kapag igagraph mo yung scores nila, parang ganito. Magkalayo-layo. In other words, there are students here in section 3 that have very high scores, and there are also students that are having very low scores. Okay? And we are basing that statement based on the standard deviation of 3.11. So class, if you will be asked, which of the following three sections are more diverse? Which of the following three sections are considered to be more diverse? Anong value yung titingnan ko? What value will I be looking at? Will I look at the minimum, the maximum, the mean, or the standard deviation? Again, gusto kong tingnan kung anong section yung mas diverse. Anong data po yung titingnan ko? Minimum, maximum, mean, or standard deviation? Your responses, please. Okay. So, others? Sige na, others. Gusto kong malaman kung sino yung mas diverse, sino yung mas different, sino yung mas variable. So class, that would go back to your standard deviation. Okay? Now, if I will ask you, no, so class, tingnan mo yung standard deviation. If I will ask you, what section is considered to be more homogeneous? What section is considered to be most homogeneous? Tatlo pala sila. So sa tatlo sila, class, anong section po yung considered to be most homogeneous? Is it your section 1, section 2, or section 3? In this case, class, that will be your section 1. Okay? Section 1 po yung considered to be most homogeneous, whereas it is your section 3 that is considered to be most heterogeneous. Okay, so from that, we are able to interpret already what kind of students that we have. In the teaching profession, class, it's usually more challenging to handle students in heterogeneous classes. Okay, because they have different needs, they also have different demands, no, towards their education. Okay, so kindly take note of that. So class, yan po yung interpretation natin ng tinatawag nating standard deviation or also are your variance and any measure of variability for that matter. Okay, so kindly take note of that. Okay, that will be all for this topic unless you have any questions.